But I've had a lot going on. I know since the last time we met, I think it was before the daddy-daughter ball, right?
No, it was. I think we did a week after that.
Was it after that?
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
then you bailed on me ever since. Yes, or last week was Valentine's Day too. I really felt like I was left out.
Why?
Valentine's Day on Thursday is when we usually podcast. I didn't even get a text from you.
No, we don't usually podcast on those Thursdays.
For whatever reason, it's still stuck in my head that it's Thursday.
Well, we do podcast on Thursdays.
Like,
Valentine's Day was on a Thursday, but it was also one of the first 3 Thursdays of the month that I've already told you.
I can't do
I
your
have to
Beasley
take kids
math.
to Trail Life.
I can't
Trail
do your
Life.
Beasley math. What'd you call it?
I said, I missed the R in the word.
Tail life. Oh, that's funny.
Maybe nobody heard that.
No, everybody's gonna hear it. I'm gonna turn it up real loud.
No, but that's why I didn't really. It would have been cool to meet on that night, but we still had a Trail Life meeting on Valentine's Day.
That's awful.
I guess.
How did your Valentine take that?
She knew about it, I guess.
I guess she did if she didn't, right?
Yeah, I wasn't at home, so. No, I'm going to.
That's awful.
Yeah, we have plans to eventually go out on a date.
A date. Now, where would said date be at, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know yet. I want to take her to a movie and a dinner.
Cool.
Yep.
I think you can do it.
This is one of those in the future kind of events, like we want it to happen.
But in 5 year plan.
Yeah. Hey, 5-year anniversary. No, it's already been past 5-year anniversary. 10-year anniversary, which is coming up real soon, by the way.
Ooh.
Yep, it is. Caleb will be 10 this March.
What?
Yep,
He's not 10 already.
He's 9 right now.
That is crazy.
March 23rd, he'll be 10. That's just unreal.
That is unreal.
Yep. Luke's almost 15. Yeah, it's a lot. And Mary, I have a picture of her sitting up. She's in a swing, and now she's sitting up in the swing, just looking around, laughing.
She's just jumping
scooting
right in.
over the floor, and it's like 6 months old. It's past the 16th, and
that is
it's
insane,
just
dude.
going by fast, man. It's just unreal.
The cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue. You know that song, right?
Yes, I do.
Do you know what it's about?
Robbing a cradle of cats.
No, never mind. Moving on.
I know what it's about. It's about being too busy for your children in the moment, and then in the later times in life that when it turns back around, that they're not going to have time for you.
That's pretty wise. Do you think that King Solomon wrote about that at all?
I think he might have talked about it a little bit.
Well, do you want to introduce us, James?
Yes,
or
sure.
Introduce the podcast title at least, not
The
necessarily
correct
us.
one this time.
Okay, bird leather, which is turkey jerky.
Turkey jerky. Deer jerky. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I have a friend at church. His name is Paul. He makes some awesome deer jerky.
And I don't suppose you brought any in your bag tonight.
I don't have any. I actually
to make up for the poor Valentine's.
No, I made it up. I made it up for the poor Valentine's because I gave it all to my wife when I was giving it. And she loves jerky, so
Smokies and jerky are pretty much the only venison that I would like.
Really?
I take that back. I remember.
What about ground jerky? Ground jerky. What about ground venison? Like using
like
it
a burger
for spaghetti and stuff instead of
but
hamburger.
you can still tell. Like I don't know. I've had it. Every time I've had it, it's like drier and
my friend Paul,
chewier.
He gave us some jerky. He gave us a little slab of it, and then several like pounds of ground venison, and it was awesome. I actually loved that in the spaghetti that my wife made, and I could tell that it wasn't beef,
right?
But it wasn't. Usually, if someone tries to change something up like that, it doesn't set well. Like you could tell, and you don't like it. No, this was good.
Maybe that's what it is.
Good.
That I had the expectation of this is, but it's still, you could tell like the flavor was still I don't know. I mean, maybe it wasn't made right. I don't know. I think that's a big part of it.
I'd hate
how
to
it's
keep
prepared.
jerking you around, but
What
we have got to get started.
the bird leather.
Oh.
What are we starting with?
We are starting with the introduction.
And go.
Tweet.
No.
Welcome to the Word Lover Podcast. I'm your host, James Beasley, here with
Josh Bunner.
And this is where we have theology meet everyday life by not being afraid to ask the questions that really matter that we know we all have, and this is a platform that we can feel free to ask them. If you have anything that you would like to bring forward to us, you feel free to drop a line down below, or you can also now email the wordloverpodcast@gmail.com.
What is the full address? Go ahead and give it to him.
The Word Lover Podcast @gmail.com.
Also, I think that you need to push your blog a little bit more. Which is it under a different name?
It is the man, you just made me forget it. It used to be at 9 blessings at blogspot.com, but I wanted to try to tie the name into it. But if you look up the wordloverpodcast.com, it'll go straight to it.
All right, so now everybody's thoroughly confused between James's math and his titles.
Yep, but the wordloverpodcast@gmail.com, you can email us questions or concerns or whatever, and you can find the blog at thewordloverpodcast.com.
I would really encourage anybody to write in some questions because I like to watch James think.
Yeah, I think he just likes to see the smoke come up off my head.
That's probably it.
Yep. Before we actually get started, I want to tell you that I had an awesome adventure this weekend. This past Saturday, we went up to my grandpa's church, Green Valley Baptist Church, I think that's what it's called, but it's outside of Kernersville, North Carolina. And but what the purpose of going there was to celebrate my nanny's 97th birthday. That was pretty awesome in itself. But I was running late. I know that's hard to believe.
What?
Yeah. We were supposed to be there at 12, and my GPS said I was going to be getting there at 12:05. And I was like, man, I've got to push the limit just a little bit. And I was speeding, going down the interstate, and I passed my younger brother and my sister on the interstate. I was like, yes, I'm not the only one's late, but I am not going to be the last one.
So you beat him?
Well, 2 hours and 5 minutes down the way, we were 5 minutes away from the church, and Elizabeth looks over at Luke and just spews all over him.
My
It
goodness.
was hilarious. But so I pull over. I'm like 5 minutes away from our destination. And I'm cleaning Elizabeth up and trying to get everything put back together. And lo and behold, my brother and my sister pass us on the road.
That's what you get.
And so does my aunt and my cousin. Everybody passes us, so everybody gets there, and we're the last ones there.
That was the turtle and the hare, right? Slow and steady.
Yeah, I guess I deserve that for being in a rush, but it was just funny. She just looks over at him and smiles real big and blah.
What did Luke do?
Oh, he was like, man, he didn't have any change of clothes or nothing.
Poor
It was.
Luke. What did he do? Like just walk around with his shirt off all afternoon?
No, it didn't get on his shirt. Thankfully, it got all over his pants, so we were able to wipe them down. And thankfully, this time we had sensitive baby wipes.
So he still smelled like vomit all day.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll have to tease him about it.
Yeah, it was pretty good though.
So, do we have any hot topics that tie into what we're our chapter Proverbs 12?
No, I was leaving that up to you, sir. I do have something that ties in, but it's not really a topic. But we can discuss that when we get to the verse, I guess, as we get to them, maybe.
Yeah, that's fine. That sounds
maybe.
like a good plan.
Yep. Riches gained easily aren't easily held on to.
What?
Like the $915,000 tax return that one guy got. Did you hear about that?
What? A $950,000?
He's got a. Well,
Did they actually pay him that much?
Yes, they deposited that into this dude's account.
And he did what with it?
He saved some of it, but he bought a brand new Lexus with it.
Oh my goodness.
And I think it all was a typo. It was the IRS's fault, and they came back and took his money and the car.
And probably put him in jail?
They could. I don't think they. I don't know. I didn't hear about them putting him in jail. I don't see how they could. It was their fault.
Yeah, but I mean, come on.
It's their fault. Once it went in his account, it was his money. Right. But they came back and made a disclaimer or whatever, and they took it back. But it's just kind of just because about to show you, don't trust in money that's gained quickly.
Well, what verse is that?
I don't know. It's just came into my head.
Let's start at the top.
And we are in Proverbs. Continue on in our study. We are starting in chapter 12.
And I'll go ahead and do the first verse because
right.
I have my NIV UK version.
UK version
pulled up, yeah. United Kingdom. We call it the Navuk.
The book.
No, Navuk.
Lavuk.
NIV UK. Come on, James. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid.
Pretty spot on.
Why do you suppose that is?
Well, it's someone who's stupid is someone who doesn't have any sense or doesn't think things through. So if just knowing that, hey, the correction is to make things better or to help you perform better, and if you spurn that, you pretty much have no care even for yourself. Well,
the discipline falls into each area of life too, like whether you're dieting or finances or anything. It all ties back into that. Discipline is super important.
It is, and it's one of the hardest things to want to accept, but you have to do it.
Exactly.
How's your diet going?
Not good.
Not good.
Like, you would have to call me out, wouldn't you? You would really have to call me out.
Yes.
No, it's going all right.
Yeah.
It's just not. I don't know. You got kind of like plateau or something, if that makes any sense.
You remember that sandwich I brought you that one day?
Well, yeah.
You told me. I told you we were all going for breakfast, and I want just to catch the audience up. We were going for breakfast at the Oval, and I was going to get me a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich or something, and Josh was busy at work or at the computer. I told him, well, we'll pick you up something. And you're like, no, I can't have the bread and all that. I said, well, we'll still get you a sandwich.
Oh, it was delicious.
So I went and got him a sandwich. It was a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, but without the bread. The bread, instead of toast, it was sausage patties.
It was amazing. That
was a pretty cool idea.
I remember sending Nicole a picture of that, my wife, and she was just like, where did that come from? I want one too. Yeah, discipline.
Yep. And with me, I'd probably just put cookies on both sides of it. But, all right. Now, verse 2, a good man obtains favor from the Lord, but the Lord condemns a crafty man. Why do you suppose that is?
Because God sees a heart, and he sees the wicked intentions long before they result in any kind of action. He knows. He knows.
But that word used for crafty is like scheming or someone who like puts a lot of thinking behind something. And to me, that actually brings to mind a parable that Jesus said about the shrewd manager. You remember that one?
I feel like there
was a shrewd manager that was handling the master's money, and it came to the master's attention that he was mishandling it. And so before he was called to the master to get fired, he started bringing in the account holders and the ones that owed the money and cutting their bills in half for the purpose of that when he did get fired and kicked out of the streets, he'd have people that would be nice and compassionate on him. He was called a shrewd manager. So
that's a good thing.
And we were.
Well, there's a couple verses that get into that too, about kind of thinking ahead a little bit.
Do you want to continue reading in verse 3, or
you want to keep leapfrogging like this? No one can be established through wickedness, but the righteous cannot be uprooted.
Psalms 1.
Yes, yes, sir. Is there anything to take out of that and to glean out of that one?
Well, I mean, except for the point in case that it does everything that someone tries to gain ill-gottenly or quickly does seem just to dissipate. It runs right through your hands, and nobody remembers you if you just because you got a lot of money. But if you do things that are good and right, and especially to help other people, that your name actually carries on. So it's not just a fleeting, you know, you're not just a fleeting moment. You actually your name is lived on in building names.
Well, I thought I took it a little bit different than that. Like you're gonna get knocked out of your spot or whatever. You know what I mean? Like if you're talking in like a political race or something, you know, if that makes any sense. But it reminded me of Psalm 62 too. God sees the heart. No, truly, He is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress, and I will never be shaken. Right?
There's a lot of psalms that tie into that, and that's awesome. Though that's an awesome verse.
So you got four, bro. Go for it.
I got four.
You got four,
I
bro.
see how you time this out. A wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a disgraceful wife is like decay in his bones.
Oh, ouch.
So, any thoughts?
I mean, the only thing I got on that is like a crown is a symbol of honor, and the rest is kind of self-explanatory. You know, you constantly struggle with a wife that, I mean, it will drain you. It will just drain every ounce of energy and love, and I don't know. What do you got?
Well, I know towards the end of this book that he gets into a wife of noble character, real good in Proverbs 31. But you know, a wife that isn't all just about how she looks and about having things done for her. I mean, there's no end to the benefit that she is. In fact, my wife is an awesome example of that. I mean, the other, just as a little story, the other day, we were, I had to stay at home with some of the kids. She took them to I'm already losing track of what was going on. What was going on? But no, she took the older ones off somewhere. I can't even remember where it is now. But I had the 6 little ones, and no, I'm gonna say those 6 drove me so crazy. I was I gave them baths, and you know, I give them 2 baths, and I have tried to wash or dry them up and put 2 more in there, and like try and get a little cycle going. And Nathaniel, he's a crazy dude. I'm in there trying to dress Elizabeth, and he's over there on the bathtub, climbing up on the wall of the tub and jumping into the water, splashing water everywhere. So I'm having to juggle all that. And I'm
Did you exercise patience?
I was patient through it all. I mean, I didn't.
You didn't try
he
to
was
choke
having
him?
fun. No, I didn't. I immediately stopped his fun and got him out of the tub and dried him off and said, "Well, your playtime is done." But it was just that little. I think I was there with them for 3 hours or so, and I was like, I just don't understand how she does it because she has all of them there, and it's just that her patience and all that. I know definitely she was first to want to tell you comes from the Lord, but is something that I look at in awe, and that's what it says is her husband's crown. You know, it's a sign of, you know, the crown was a sign of authority and ruling and the power and the position that the king had. And if that's my crown, that means what's behind my authority and power is all of the effort and the hour, the toil and all that kind of stuff that she pours into the family. And it just blows you away to know that actually is a blessing from the Lord.
Well, it also helps too to remember what she does, because if you're not there to see,
oh wow, yes.
so when you take that on, you get to experience what she goes through on a daily basis, and you can really respect and honor her more as well.
Yep, I definitely understand how she's almost at wit's end at the end of the day when I come home. when she came home at the end of not even half a day. But but it says a disgraceful wife is like decay in his bones. There's nothing that I think that a man desires more than respect. You know, to be respected by his children and his wife and all that, just to know that I'm not just wasting space here in my house or, you know, in life in general, and the respect gives you that. And a disgraceful wife is someone who doesn't help try to feed into that, and which is what she's called to do in Ephesians. She's not called to love her husband. I think most women naturally do. She's called to respect her husband, and I think that's something that helps the man become or to continue being the man that God wants him to be, is the wife coming alongside of him with that respect. And if it's not there, it just drains every bit of desire that you have to be a better husband and father.
Well, if you're talking about like your calling and stuff, like you're fighting the tide, right? Because you're trying to live your life and serve your calling that God gave to you. But if you have to constantly like be discouraged and frustrated, it's just so draining and exhausting.
Yep. Which that right on right there. So verse 5.
The plans of the righteous are just, but the advice of the wicked is deceitful. I think it's safe to say that someone's actions were evil, then their thoughts are probably going to be evil as well. I mean, that's not. Is there something deeper there that I'm missing, James? Lay it on us, brother. Lay it on us.
The Hebrew for plans means schemes or thoughts. It's like a laid out idea or something behind something, which is also advice.
What is the Hebrew word?
I would have to look that up.
No, say it. I want you to say it right now. Make it up right now.
Make it up.
Go ahead.
But you know that it says the plans of the righteous are just, is that the thoughts or the intentions or the advice, so to speak, that someone who is living or trying to abide by or loves the Word of God is going to try to point you in a proper and good direction, even if it doesn't, you know, like foster their ideas or like hobbies or whatever. But the advice of the wicked is deceitful. I have Romans 1:32 scribbled down there for this verse. When I also the next several verses, they all talk about the speech and the intent behind what you're telling people. In Romans 1:32, it talks about how wicked people are the ones that they not only condone bad practices or perform them, but they actually condone or encourage them in other people. And you see that all the time. It's like, you know, homosexuality, lying. You can almost name the gamut of sins that the Bible forbids. And now you'll have churches and pastors and all that now, instead of calling people out, which holding them accountable, they condone what they're doing. The person themselves may not do those things, but they are condoning it to make the other person feel better, because I think we're teaching a lot of people who are in the church today that Christianity really is about feeling comfortable and okay with ourselves, rather than getting uncomfortable and trying to please what God says.
You got it wrong, man. You got to trust in your heart.
Your heart is deceitfully wicked. Mine is deceitfully wicked. If I lean on my heart the whole time, I'd be screwed up.
I like that recovery. Your heart is... Wait, no, mine is... No, wait.
Our hearts.
Pointing that finger back at you.
Yep. No, I made sure my hand was to the side.
No, we actually studied that Sunday about just the sin of the flesh, and how that the way that society goes these days is to follow your heart and follow your dreams, and it's all about you and that's it's about feeling good about stuff. And
I'm gonna put a plug in here. I think it'd be okay.
Go for it.
But I'm almost through with the book I've been reading.
That you're gonna let me have.
Do you want it next?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, because I've got the DVD and the whole the study behind it too. I'd love to get a study going with it, but it's Francis Chan's new book, letters to the church, and a lot of it we talk about all the time. We hear a lot of it, but it's just refreshing just to sit down and read a lot of this just in one
Sitting.
sitting or
place.
resource.
Right.
But it's a call for the church to stop being comfortable in ourselves and actually get out of that and start being what God intended the church to be. And that wasn't to go once a week to sit and listen to a man talk about the word and listen to worship to feed us and to pacify our desires and to give us all the programs that we want. It was for us to get off of our tails and get out there in the world and actually live Christ out in front of people. But it was good. I do want to point out something else that in verse 5, it says that the plans of the righteous are just. That word for just is mitzvot, which is laws, decrees, and is used for justice. You know, all the Moses writings, the Ten Commandments, all those laws, that's mitzvot. That's laws and decrees, and that's what we're told to live by and stuff like that. So if the plans of the righteous are just,
They're lawful.
they're lawful according to God. Their plans or the encouragement or whatever the righteous person is telling you, they're not righteous just because they just know a lot of stuff. They're telling you something according to God's word. And Matthew 5:18-19 says that not one jot or tittle is going to be erased from God's word, from the law or the prophets, until everything is accomplished. And he said that blessed is the man who lives by and teaches others to live by them. And that's exactly what the plans of the righteous are. That it's ones that line up with God's word.
Jesus came to abolish all laws.
I think. Verse 6. I guess that's mine to read.
It is yours to read.
The words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the speech of the upright rescues them. Did you have thoughts jotted down for that one?
I did, and I just wrote that basically the wicked plan and are ready to pounce on anyone they think they can gain something from. Just looking to move up that next step or whatever, and they don't really care what it means. Like nothing's off limits.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it's like they're always ready to tear somebody down, to slander them or to make them feel worse about themselves. We're all sinners, and we know that. We need to be confronted with our sin, but we don't need to be told how horrible and terrible that you are, because that's the Holy Spirit's job, is to transform us. In fact, if you're a believer, you're not a sinner any longer. You're a saint. You're sanctified and set apart. So now you are the righteousness of Christ. It's just that sometimes we need to be confronted in our actions so that we'll continue or to recontinue. To recontinue.
The new series by James Beasley.
Yes. The living the way that Christ would have us to. And the speech of the upright rescues them. It's being able to encourage them and to spur them on to good works is what the New Testament calls us to.
So does this verse 7 tie back into what you're talking about? The wicked are overthrown and no more, but the house of the righteous stands firm. Wasn't it just something you were talking about?
The house?
No, that was
chickens.
That was being uprooted.
Yes, that was the.
Yeah, it's just the wise man built his house upon the rock. His house.
Yep, it'll stand firm forever. But a house it signifies more. It's just so funny to see that chair do that all the time. For those you can't see, his chair keeps, I guess,
breaking,
for lack of better words, but at least it's still upright.
We're talking about my diet and my chair breaks. Perfect.
But the house it's your dwelling place. It's your everyday life. It's what you're living for, and a lot of times that it's exactly what we have is that we're working and living so that our families will do better. That will also to know the Lord and have this perpetual faith handed down, and if it's built on lies and is built on not the word of God, then there's nothing there that's sustainable or that can last forever. But a man is praised according to his wisdom, but men with warped minds are despised.
Now, I would say that our present age has that somewhat reversed, wouldn't you?
Yes, because we're all about the Joker.
The Joker?
He's a warped-minded individual, isn't he?
Well, I think that a lot of that, pretty much all the traits that you can think of are just warped-minded and,
Yeah.
I don't know, the despised things are what people long for, long to do, or respect,
Well, we're
or
told
think
that
are important.
That's
why
in the
it's
last
popular.
days they're going to call evil good and good evil, and just totally just flop everything around. So, but it is but you can tell that if you got a level head in wisdom and like being able to apply knowledge or God's word to life, I don't really a lot of people just tend to hone in on that and flock to that. They may not be doing things right or doing what they want, thinking, saying whatever, but sooner or later they're going to be going to that individual and saying, "Hey, let me ask you about this. Let me see what you have to say or think about this." And I think that's something that a lot of people don't get the attention or they're not pointed out, but that is something to be desired or wanting to attain for yourself, is to live quietly, to have that relationship with God, so that the wisdom comes out in ways that people can see, and eventually they're going to be trying to approach you for that.
How would you describe prudence?
The little fruits, dried fruit.
No. That's
Prudence.
no, prudence. Not
Pru-
prudence.
Dense.
What is prudence?
Ah,
I'm gonna ask you while I look it up, just so we can make sure
we'll
that
look
we
it
get
up.
right.
well, when I hear the word prudence, I think of it as an ability to apply wisdom into everyday living and like aspects, being able to rightly discern and to judge.
Prudence.
What?
What?
Prudence.
Is he going to spell it for you?
It's the quality of being prudent. That's what it means. You're totally off. Not even close.
The quality of being prudent. Yes.
No, it means basically, to be cautiousness.
Cautious.
That's what today's definition of it means.
If you're using wisdom to apply it in everyday life, I mean, I would say you're going into things cautious and thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you
So,
think that you
I didn't quite hit it there.
exercise prudence?
I like exercising.
Prudence?
I'm not cautious all the time.
All right, so I need your help on this one. Better to be a nobody and yet have a servant than pretend to be somebody and have no food. What the heck does that mean, James? Break it down.
Break it down. 1, 2, 3. Oh, well, I think it's the same thing Ecclesiastes was getting at when he said it's better to have one fistful and peace than two fistfuls and chasing after the wind all the time. It's
Fistful of dollars?
well, dollars, fame, whatever. Trying to have too much, you tend to spend all your time and effort and energy into things and stuff that don't last. But to be a nobody, it's not having that fame and recognition and all that, but then you still have your needs met. You still have someone there to care and to help you. But if all you're doing is just blowing everything and chasing after the wind, and a lot of people may know your name, but then there's really no true support there. There's nobody there to actually come by your side or anything like that. And I'd rather have my name not known, but have true friends than.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have down here, better is he who is lightly esteemed and has a servant than he who boastfully honors himself, pretending to be what he is not and lacks the common will to eat, or he can't even feed himself.
What is he in a coma?
Probably.
6269. Let me flip back there real quick.
What is 6269?
That is a number.
Very, very good. Man, you're teaching me so much today, James.
Let me get there.
That is a number.
It is a number. That is the key to the Hebrew word there, sir.
Oh, boy.
6269 is... It's a bed.
A bed?
Well, it's a compound proper name that's servant, slave, or attendant, but servant, slave, or attendant. But I guess it's anybody. We're all called to be servants and to be submissive to one another. And, you know, even though us as people, as individuals, we're all called to do that, being honest with our humanity, if somebody is just full of themselves and they're too much about having their own recognition,
they're not going to get help from anybody.
They're not really going to have, even though we're called to serve and submit one another, honest with our humanity, we're not going to do it that much, or as we should possibly for the ones that are all for
James
themselves.
James is releasing everybody from servanthood to his fellow brothers.
I am not releasing them.
Yes, you are. You just said it, so it's got to be true.
Bondage.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think just as the principle in everyday life, that if you all are about yourself, that eventually people will grow tired of that. They're gonna gravitate to the ones that or treat others as better than themselves. Is what Paul teaches us in Ephesians. You know, to esteem others better than ourselves. You know, is if we have that outlook to one another. You know, as Jesus said, the golden rule: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. You can't do that if all you're doing is living for yourself. And that's one thing that is a strong reservation of mine with sports. What? Is that of this me mentality? It's all about me, and you know.
Do you play a
bragging.
lot of sports?
I don't play a lot of sports.
You don't pray a lot either. Why are you here?
to talk about it.
No, I get it. Like it's everything is a team, right? And you're only as good as your team anyway.
Is there an I in team?
Right there in the
middle of the A?
In the A-hole. All right, you're up.
All right. A righteous man cares for the needs of his animal, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel.
How do you feel about that?
I think that's echoed in the words of Jesus when he says that no one is good but God alone. It's like, even though we give good gifts to our children and all that, really goodness is from God. And almost everything that we do, our love for our families and others and our acts of kindness, they're all still tainted with sin because we live in a fallen world. So outside of Jesus Christ, I can see that because the cruel act, because the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel, because this is in relation to how God sees things and how things operate and how they should operate. Because they're not done with a pure form of love and kindness. It's done still tainted with sin. And we have to have that relationship with Jesus Christ to be able to walk in the goodness and the kindness of the Spirit. What did you have wrote down there, sir? Look like I'm losing you.
Well, I just wrote down the wicked man can be cruel even in his kindness. Usually the kindness is fueled by his own self-interest anyway. So like, for whatever reason,
I must have read your notes.
It painted a picture of like somebody like doing like a horse trainer or something that is running races. Like they just totally.
Well, they spur him to keep him running faster.
Well, that too, but like
What about cinching the rope around the bull to make him buck longer?
Exactly.
Is that cruel?
That's pretty cruel.
Is it?
Have you ever had it done to you?
No.
Come here. No. So basically, this is a
verse. We're canceling all further episodes.
This is a verse that justifies that you should become a vegetarian, James. So say goodbye.
Oh, is it?
Say goodbye to bacon.
No, it says like he cares for the needs of his animal.
He doesn't kill him and eat him.
No, the needs of a steak is to be cooked properly.
You heathen. Hmm.
Actually, they're actually, which I love my steak and I love my bacon and all that stuff, but there's actually a lot of argument in the Bible pro vegetarianism.
Maybe
But
we can cover that someday.
maybe so. Bacon's a vegetable.
Hmm. Bacon is not a vegetable, James.
Yes, and eggs are fruit.
You are fruit, is what you are.
It is. Eggs are the fruit of a chicken.
Do you like animals, James?
Yes, I love animals. Deep fried.
All right, we're moving on.
Let's move on before we get hungry.
Those who work the land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. Ooh.
Yep. In mine,
So that
in the proper NIV, it says lacks judgment. But
oh my goodness, the proper NIV. You just insulted the United Kingdom. I hope you're happy with
no,
yourself.
I did not insult them.
So that means that while you're out tending to your garden and you reap the harvest, and I'm playing video games, that you're better for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
But that's the verse I actually have a little bit of a news about.
You're
but
gonna correct it.
no, I'm not going to correct it.
All right, what's your news?
This is actually one thing I was reading through, and that is changing the way we're doing things at our house. I'm actually in the process of building a chicken run.
Like the movie?
Well, they had chicken runs in the movie. Hopefully, our chickens don't rebel.
Oh,
But we're planning on getting chickens and making a few more garden beds and stuff, and doing a lot more of that this year, and trying to be a little bit more self-sustainable than we have been. We normally do a lot of bucket gardening, but we're going to do some, I guess, other types of gardening. And I actually found an awesome way that I'm going to try this year of growing potatoes.
he's got that.
'Cause
Look
I love
in his
potatoes.
eye.
I love potatoes.
Like in a jar.
No, you get the seed potatoes and you just put them on the ground and you cover them up with hay.
That's it.
That's it. You don't bury them.
I imagine
You don't weed them. You don't do nothing.
there's
You
probably
just,
not too many animals that would touch a potato either, right?
I'm an animal that touch a potato. I
No,
love
I mean,
potatoes.
if you have like
I don't know. I don't know if I don't really hear of many animals that mess with
you
potatoes.
stole my potatoes, but usually they're buried too.
They're usually buried.
So maybe
But
you.
but that was a cool thing. You don't have to have something to disc up the land, or just throw them on the ground and cover them up. Let them grow.
Sounds interesting.
I'm gonna try it, and
Make
hopefully I
some
get a lot
french
of
fries.
potatoes. I love potatoes. We eat potatoes just about every meal, but that was my little thing right there. We're gonna try to be more sustainable and do that, just because that verse does say,
Because of that verse that made you.
they work your land, you'll have abundant food, and instead of relying on others, I mean, you're not going to 100% get away from that, because especially in the society that we have.
Well, that's what I'm saying. From
It
our
might.
society today, does this verse still apply?
Yeah, I would say it applies, but I would say not in the
Direct
technical,
way that
literal,
that
like,
it's presented.
unless you're out there farming, you're not going to have
It
food.
just means you're going to work.
Yeah, you got to put forth the work, and don't sit around and be lazy like what you were talking about video games.
There's a couple of verses that tie right back into that too.
Oh yeah.
But I will let you take number 12.
The wicked desire the plunder of evil men, but the root of the righteous flourishes.
See, I feel
This is about
like
pirates.
I feel like we covered this already.
This is pirates.
Pirates.
Yeah, the wicked desire the plunder of evil men.
No, it's the stronghold of evildoers.
What?
The wicked desire the stronghold of evildoers, but the root of the righteous endures.
Okay, this is about knights.
Yeah, but didn't we cover this back up in...
I think we touched on the similar stuff, because
no one can be established through their wickedness, but the righteous cannot be uprooted.
it's just the plunder or the strongholds or the things that the evil
wicked-
try to gather and collect.
The wicked are overthrown and no more, but the house of the righteous stands firm. Like that, they're pretty much... Well, I guess they're all different, but...
When it's like, if you don't have, the poor man doesn't hear threats because he doesn't have money.
But why would Solomon rewrite that so many times? Must be important, huh?
Oh, because it's so easy to start trusting in things and money and possessions and the stuff that we want to gather. Well, most people, when they see a lot of stuff like the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, the greed, covetousness, and envy, all this stuff, it's rampant. You deal with it each and every day, and as we live, hopefully we're trusting in the Spirit to help us live better than that. But if all you're doing is living for those things, it's going to be desired and coveted by somebody else, because it's something that somebody can take in the moment, when really the deep down, the happiness and the pleasure that you're seeking isn't going to be found in things.
It's from farming potatoes.
It is.
No, I get it.
Let's see, we are
13. Evildoers are trapped by their sinful talk, and so the innocent escape trouble.
but a righteous man escapes trouble.
No, the innocent.
The innocent?
That's what it says here. Go ahead and insult the United Kingdom again if you'd like.
Maybe we need to get out a Hebrew text for that.
Well,
this word isn't keyed, so I would have to go back and study that at home.
Innocent versus what?
Righteous.
Well, it still would apply either way, the way that I have it, because if you lie, you have to remember the lie that you told.
Yes.
And remember the lie that you told that lie. And it's going to catch up with you. And you're just going to escape trouble completely if you just are truthful to begin with.
That's right.
Regardless if you're innocent or righteous.
But no one is truly innocent. We can all act righteously.
Well, if you're innocent, I guess if you take this from like the court, like a court perspective, like evildoers versus the innocent. I don't know. That was worth a shot.
No, I think that makes sense, man. From the fruit of his lips, a man is filled with good things, as surely as the work of his hands rewards him.
Wow.
What about in years of drought when the farmers don't get nothing?
Well, God is still good, right?
God is always good.
A man will receive what he has worked for, whether it's for good or for evil.
I wish I can just say banana and a banana appear.
One day.
Because it says I have fruit from my lips.
No, it says you are a fruit.
The way of a fool seems right to him, but a wise man listens to advice. Oh, see, a lot of this, he's just repeating the same thing in different ways, but it's cool. I think. What's the best way that's proven how we learn things?
The best way is to experience it ourselves, because that's what we're gonna end up doing anyway. Repetition.
My kids hate that. We're in the times tables now, and that's what I'm telling them. Repetition.
Oh,
no. Okay, but you have something about that verse, I see.
No, it's just that a wise man understands the value in an experienced perspective, right? I mean, that's wisdom. Rather than having to suffer and go through the agonizing pain of whatever the experience might be, you can listen, or you can be stubborn and do it yourself, and that's foolish.
This is actually saying that a lot of us growing up, and a lot of our kids now, as they're growing up, we're all fools.
Yeah.
In this sense, because when we hear something, it was like, I ain't doing it that way. I'm gonna do it my own way.
How often do you, when you picture a wise man in your head, is it a 6-year-old?
No.
Or wisdom. If you picture wisdom in your head, you picture an old bearded man.
An old bearded man that had to live and suffer through.
And seasoned.
But then you always find out that he only got that way by suffering and experience and all that.
Yeah.
But then we have that picture in Job of the fourth friend who was the youngest of them all. He ended up being the wisest of them all.
That's not normal.
No, it's not normal, but it's attainable.
So you don't judge a book by its cover. That's the next verse. Just kidding.
A fool shows his annoyance at once, but a prudent man overlooks an insult.
What do you got? How foolish is it to just act out of your impulses?
I would say it's very foolish because a lot of times you don't think things through. You don't have all the information, or you're just acting out of emotion, and sometimes it's not even how you would want to treat the person anyhow.
Well, I think the theologian Kenny Rogers said it best. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Know when to walk away and know when to run.
Well, that means you'd have to be prudent in the situation.
Right. And you
know that.
Like you're thinking you're sitting there playing poker, right? You don't show everything you got.
Unless you got a bad...
Well, and then you got to bluff. Well, that's a different verse.
Bad poker face is like... Oh, wow, I got some. But a little bit of honesty here. I actually was the fool a little bit this past week.
Do tell.
No, this past week. We just started this week.
This past year?
Yeah, the past week.
Pastor?
Was it the past week or the? It's so few and far between that it's hard to.
No, I think it's the opposite that you're having trouble recalling.
Yes,
it happens so frequently.
No, it's just I'm trying to remember what week this particular event happened. No, it was something that happened at work, and it was a little bit. We were doing a job, and it was taken from us and handed to somebody else, and they called back and said, "Well, ain't nothing right." So I'm called over there, and it's a particular individual that.
Can you say their name?
No. But we all wear shoes.
Oh boy.
But I went there to the vet school to look at this, and just, as soon as we got there, I was like, "You're full of crap." And I get in there, and it was wrong. So I had to eat my words.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I showed my annoyance at once, and I just proved this verse right. It's kind of funny how that happens a lot.
I have a quote from Ross here. It is not so much that the wise man represses anger or feelings, but that he is more shrewd in dealing with it. Little thought for you. What do you think about that?
And who did you say that was from?
Ross.
Ross.
From David Schwimmer from Friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I have a friend named Ross.
I know you do.
And
does he have a book? Because I'd love to quote him.
yeah, he actually wrote one, but a thesis, but it's on like history.
I probably wouldn't understand then.
You probably enjoy reading it.
I have a small brain. A fool shows his annoyance at once, and we're not doing that one again. An honest witness tells the truth, but a false witness tells lies. That is just, it's right there. You know what I mean?
Truthful witness gives honest testimony.
It's right there, right in your face. There's
That's also, I think,
guessing.
why Revelation begins by, we're not like the first verse or nothing, but it refers to Jesus as the faithful and true witness. But that one just speaks volumes in itself.
Yeah, there's not really. It's all really kind of topical there.
Verse 18: reckless words pierce like a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. And this probably speaks more to how I was applying the other one, anyhow, about the way we can build each other up and tear them down. And it actually makes me think of how we deal with our kids all the time. A lot of children, I mean, they take things, they internalize a lot of stuff. They're quick to forgive, but it's so easy
you do store that stuff away.
Yeah.
Even we do, and think about a little kid.
Yeah.
But it's so funny that you say that, because you can watch, and sometimes I'll try and think, where did he get this attitude from? It's right there. It's a mirror. They're picking up every little thing, whether you're paying attention or not. And that's one of the things I pray the hardest for. Yeah. Is not that I'm intentional, but the Holy Spirit, just his fruit comes out of my life. Absolutely. I don't want to try. I just want him, like, I want that's how it to be. But
I've got 10 mirrors.
Yeah, I know. You got it rough. Way rough.
Yep. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue.
Wait, I still had something on.
Oh, do you? Well, you paused.
And I feel like
dramatically paused, and I thought we were done.
I was trying to think of something, but then I realized that I had wrote this. And this is what I'm going to read you word for word what I have written down. Your tongue is a rudder, and a sword. And yours, James, is forked. That's right there.
You wrote that down?
I did write
Why'd you write that
I
down?
don't know, but
It's forked.
that's what I was thinking. Oh, good.
At least use a regular word.
All right.
But I see how that is. It sounds like you were
Tearing you down right there.
robbing from the New Testament, though, but because our tongues are a rudder, it guides everything that we do, and it actually guides, like we were talking about our kids. It guides pretty much sort of the destinies of how they're going to be perceiving themselves, and it's something that we really have to be prudent about and not just act recklessly with.
That's why I try not to say, "Hey, maggot face, get your socks off the floor."
Well, that's good.
JK.
JK. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment.
I like how you're reading all of them now.
I thought you read. Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You can read the next one.
Whatever. I'm hurt. Well, what do you take away from that?
That if it's truthful lips endure forever. The main thing that sticks out to in my mind about that is the Word of God. You know, it's really the only testimony and thing that lasts forever. And as we're raising children or teaching other people, the only thing that's really going to make a lasting impact is if we're giving advice and encouragement that lines up with that. So a truthful lips is someone who is speaking words that are wise and true.
Did you call me a truthful lips?
I was inadvertently looking at you.
Oh.
Not anyway. But for the most part, yes. Except for that last comment you said way back. So.
I would say that this verse ties in with the whole being uprooted and being, I don't know, like everything crumbles, right? The lies that you're going to, like if you tell a lie to get out of something you're going to get momentary victory. But in the long run, that righteousness and truth will stand forever. And that there's like 3 other verses that kind of go with that. So how do you like them apples, James?
Baked.
Now, do I get to read the next
yes,
verse?
You do.
Or are you going to hop
please,
all over me?
Please. Verse 20.
Are you sure?
You're not going to read it? Okay.
Deceit is in the hearts of those who plot evil, but those who promote peace have joy.
All right. So.
Well.
Sound like you got a lot on that one.
Well, I don't.
I have a little note.
What do you have? Please do tell.
When I was like praying, like meditating, praying over this verse, what I thought about was holding grudges versus forgiving. Is that there's deceit in the hearts of those who plot evil. You know, a lot of times we read Proverbs and a lot of the Old Testament, and we always think like.
I never think, let me out, I'm stuck in your pocket when I read Proverbs.
But a lot of times we, did you text me?
Not anytime recently.
No, you did not. Okay, that was somebody else. But, a lot of times we're or at least sometimes I get stuck in this. We're trapped in this, with this picture of a robber or a bandit on the side of the road, evil, you know, and then the good guy. It's almost foreign to us, and a lot of these things we're putting these kind of characters to evil and the good person, and there's like actions rather than what if evil and good are not speaking of individual people, but rather the thoughts and actions or attitudes within our own hearts. You know, Ecclesiastes says that we all have the evil and good, but if the seed is in the hearts of those who plot evil, to me stuck out as someone holding grudges against things that they're unwilling to let go of. Because what is the intent behind that? You have to dwell on that in order to hold a grudge, and a lot of times bitterness takes root, and then the only thing that comes out of that is a distaste or something worse for the individual that you're holding that grudge against. But but joy for those who promote peace are the ones who step out and are willing to, even as hard as it may be, to forgive that individual. It actually brings a comfort and a joy in your soul, but it also brings that the most part in the relationship as well. It may not bring reconciliation, but there's a joy and a peace there that could never be possible if that grudge is being held on to.
Absolutely.
But that's what I got from that.
Well, that'll just hold your head under the water even longer. The longer you hold on to something, I mean, it's just going to tear you up.
Yeah.
No one overtakes the righteous, but the wicked will have.
Are you reading all the verses?
Trouble. I figured I had to catch up.
I have stars by that one.
See, but this is.
No harm befalls the righteous, but the wicked have their fill of trouble.
But this is not true. I know the righteous.
That's why I have stars by. It's like this is like Job's whole discussion here. Why do I see the wicked prosper and the righteous go with nothing?
Why?
This says no harm befalls the righteous, but the wicked have their fill of trouble. And I think it is true. I really think it's true. But if you go back to how I was bringing the understanding of evil and good and the wicked and all that as maybe not so much as a person, but as emotion or like yourself, like individually. No harm befalls the righteous, but the wicked have their fill of trouble. If you're trusting in the Lord, you're not going to be filled with it. You're not going to be anxious. You're not going to be troubled over things. No harm befalls the righteous. You know, you're walking in joy and peace and love. You know, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. You're not going to be dismayed and brought down and conquered, even if bad things happen, because your focus is on the Lord. But if you are not trusting in the Lord, if you're more just dwelling in the moment and in the circumstances, you become overwhelmed by them and then essentially troubled. You know, that's why Jesus says that don't worry about tomorrow and what troubles may be in there. Each day has a trouble of its own. You know, trust in the Lord. And if you trust in Him and walk in the fruit of the Spirit, then I think that's what it means by no harm befalls you.
Well, I think that could it not be like the final choice that you made as well? Because the righteous will be, there will be no harm come to them.
Yeah, in the end,
if you're thinking long ball, right? That's what it is.
Absolutely. But the Lord detests lying lips, but He delights in men who are truthful. It's like He's bringing, he's got the same type of what you were talking about, the being uprooted and all that kind of stuff with the lying and the truthfulness. He's got them scattered in here too. And
back in 16, he says it. It's just wisdom and the prudence of what you're saying. I mean,
but
so why do you always talk out of impulse, James?
Oh, I don't. I think I stay up all night sometimes thinking about how quickly I can just react to something. I put a lot of thought behind my.
It sounds like you just blurted that out as well.
Maybe so, but
the one of the things that I have written down here is it is a mark of wisdom and prudence to not reveal all that we know, especially if it may harm or disgrace others. Is that right?
Oh, that's for the next verse.
Yeah.
A prudent man keeps his knowledge to himself, but the heart of fools blurts out folly. But see, that's why I like the word for prudent, which is where I get my understanding of prudence from, is crafty and cleverness. But I'm going to turn to that one so that you can
turn it up, James.
See it as well. 68.
This is another perfect.
What is?
Example of The Gambler by Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Yeah. 6874 is Arum, which is prudent, crafty, or clever. So the prudence is it's cautious, but it's having more of a plan or thinking.
thinking?
It's having more of a plan. It's just not being cautious as in being afraid of what you're going to be confronted with. It's being cautious because you're thinking everything through.
But you can also overthink it. You know, if you're thinking about reacting to a reaction of a reacting reaction, I mean, you just can go on forever, and then you're paralyzed to do anything.
Well, that's true. I would call that filled with anxiety or being anxious over what's going to happen.
Anti-prudence.
That's not just being concerned over what's going to happen.
But I think there is wisdom in waiting and sitting back and seeing how something may develop before you commit to something. I mean, certainly, especially when you're talking. Sometimes that you still got to kind of think split second if you're having a conversation, but not to just go blurt out whatever pops in your head like James does with potatoes.
With potatoes. I love potatoes. But I know that the next verse is 24, but 23 goes right in hand with 25. An anxious heart weighs a man down, but a kind word cheers him up. It also goes back in about verse 18. Reckless words pierce like a sword, and the tongue of the wise brings healing. Because if we're overwhelmed with what's going on, if you know, it's sort of like what you were saying about thinking too much. It's good and proper to take your time, be cautious, and to think things through. But if all you're going to do is think of the what ifs and the possibilities, you're going to be overwhelmed with that and not be able to move. But if you're, and that's what an anxious heart weighs a man down, but a kind word cheers him up. You know, things may be difficult. You may not be able to understand everything that's going on, but you can do this. You can get through it. God is still good. I always talk about, stuff like that. It helps us be able to grasp that there's more to life and what's going on than the momentary trouble that may be coming against us.
Very wise.
You can read verse 24.
Oh, yeah, 24.
Yeah, we're going to go back to where we skipped it.
Diligent hands. Well, we were talking about 25, right? Anxiety weighs down the heart.
But I skipped it.
Well,
you can go ahead.
Well, yeah, I don't even know where this came from, but it hit me when I was reading this, and it just says, "Show me your friends, and I will show you your future." Because you think about everybody that you like, your friends are going to be encouraging to you and lift you up. Where if you have that negativity in your life all the time, you're probably not gonna. It's going to be hard to overcome that and to. I don't know, to succeed.
Like the Apostle Paul said, bad company corrupts good character.
Right, but to hear, like when somebody's sensitive to know that you need to hear something encouraging, I think that fit pretty good. Yep. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely. But 24.
The 24.
Read it? I was excited. I have a note beside this one too.
Oh my goodness! Of course you do, James. Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor. I like that.
Do you?
Yeah, because
what'd you have by it? What stood out to you?
The diligent rise to the top, and the lazy sink to the bottom. That doesn't even really matter or make sense.
You just rephrased the verse.
No, but it's kind of. But
you know what I thought about?
Sometimes that's what I got to do in order to understand something is break it down to Josh level reading.
Well, it's not just Josh level. It's I think one of the best ways to read the Psalms is to go in there and reword them. To read the Psalm
and then in a way that you can understand.
Yeah, because it's poetry. You can't change the meaning. You can't just change the words and change the meaning if you want to.
You just revealed yourself, James.
You can't
that wasn't
do that.
Very prudent.
but it's cool to go in there and reword it.
Yeah,
that's what songwriters do all the time. They'll take something and change, but they're saying the message, but they're just saying it in a different way. And I think that's a cool thing to do. But no,
you just made fun of me. Thanks.
I did not make fun of you. I am encouraging you to continue this endeavor.
I don't think I can do it anymore.
I have a little note beside that verse, and it says the effects of socialism.
Oh my goodness.
That's exactly what I see in this verse.
The effects of socialism.
Socialism, yep. Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in slave labor. if all you're doing is relying on the government to give you your insurance, give you your food, do all this stuff for you, and the money really isn't there, well, eventually your children and their children, they're going to be working their whole lives just to pay into the government to sustain them.
Yeah, I guess that kind of happens, right?
Well, that does happen in socialistic economies. That's exactly what happens, and that's one thing you're hearing now about this big push that, well, America will never be a socialistic country. Well, if we if our citizens continue in the same path that we've been going down of wanting the government to do more and more and more and more for you, we're not being diligent in working and doing things for ourselves and being self-sufficient. It's going to end in slave labor. We're going to be binding ourselves to them for, for a pay. Well, I guess if you're a state, you are bound to the worst paycheck. But anyhow, I just had the effects of socialism. I mean, this is a good, and it's what God warned Israel about when they wanted a king. When he said, if you want a king, that's fine, but just remember, they're not rejecting you, Samuel. They're rejecting God as king. And when you put people in charge of other people like that, as in that much of authority, they end up taking advantage or exploiting the people. So if you're diligent, if you're working your land, providing for yourself and all that, then you're going to have abundance. But if not, if you're relying on the government or other things to do this for you, you're going to wind up working for them all the time. I actually think that's how Israel slipped into slavery in Egypt.
But
anyhow, that's a whole nother topic. A righteous man is cautious in friendship, but the way of the wicked leads them astray.
So when that little quote that I had was 25 and 26.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. But again, my little note is just choose your friends carefully. Everything you were saying about 25 and what Paul talked about, bad company corrupts good character.
Bad company.
It's very easy to give into that peer pressure or the idea that you want to be accepted, and you do end up mimicking those you hang around the most. And I just wish that it was one of those things that we're foolish when we're young because we don't care. We want to hang out with this particular person or this crowd, and we don't really think about the long-term consequences to that kind of a friendship. But a true friend is somebody who is going to embetter your life and not just use you for their own advantage.
Well, you have to be cautious too, because you don't want to use that as an excuse not to befriend anybody, though.
Yeah, but I don't.
But you could be just a little more guarded.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I don't think this is referring to just everyday, like what we would just call acquaintances, like people you be around, you're talking to. We shouldn't be afraid to talk to anybody or sit with anybody if we feel the Spirit leading, or if we just see a group of individuals at a table that isn't like us.
Don't even get started.
that we shouldn't be afraid to do that. But this friendship here is somebody that you're bringing in. I think we have our relationship with God and family, and then the friendship is what they're talking about, is your closest people that's outside of that as a direct influence to who you are and how you're living. And those people should be believers, and they should be people who are going to build you up in the faith and not try to deter you from that walk. But that's why you're cautious. Verse, I guess you can read 27.
This one. I read this like 8 times before I just had to do commentary because I was just like, what the heck? The lazy do not roast any game, but the diligent feed on the riches of the hunt. And I was like, trying to wrap my brain around what the heck does that even mean? And the way that it.
Can I read mine?
Go ahead and read yours.
The lazy man does not roast his game, but the diligent man prizes his possessions.
So that basically what I took from it was, you got a bunch of guys going out to hunt. Dude shoots an animal, drags it back to his house. He doesn't skin it. It just sits there because he's too lazy to do it. Like he did the beginning part. But the diligent person is going to follow through. They're going to skin it and clean it, prep it, whatever you do when you hunt. I'm not even sure, but basically cook the food and eat it. No, yes, maybe.
Well, I can see that.
What did you tell me, James?
When I read that, yeah. Well,
while you're doing a jig,
yeah. When I read that, I don't see the lazy man just letting the game go to waste. I see it as him not taking the time to roast it, so that he just rushes in and eats it raw. Which is where also I think this is a look back at the law when it says that you cannot eat meat with the blood still in it.
Oh.
But that you are too hasty and too impatient with life that you don't take the time to do things properly. To enjoy it, right. And you're like all in the moment, you're going to eat it and then it's gone. You have nothing to show for it.
That makes a lot of sense.
But the diligent man prizes his possession. So you take the time to cook it, you savor it. You savor the eating it, you take your time, but most of the time when you take your time like that, you oftentimes take the time to invite other people. You know, like when I try to do cookouts and I invite you, I take the time.
Oh, whatever. You take 5 minutes to say, get over here.
Show you a picture of the grill.
You're such a nerd.
but a lot of times it brings in the aspects of fellowship and, of camaraderie and other things than just hastily rushing through life. And that's what I get from the roasting the game versus the prizing the possessions, because the friendships that we have and the good gifts of food, of clothing and whatever, they're good gifts from God, and it's meant to be enjoyed, not just to be lived for.
Right. I actually you made me highlight that verse.
I made you highlight?
You have had a positive influence on my life this one time, James.
I feel like we are accomplishing things.
I feel like I want to study that some more.
Yeah, it's a verse to study, but I do think it ties back with an understanding of the law.
It does, and that's where I fell short. But it's super interesting and it's super applicable to anybody's life, especially this day and age.
Oh yeah, in the way of righteousness there is life. Along that path is immortality.
This is like an Indiana Jones artifact.
Yep, the Pool of Solomon.
Is that's what it reminds me of?
Yeah. But I think just like all this other stuff, it's pointing back. If you want to be rooted, if you want to be on a firm foundation, if you want to have an endurance to not only your words but your life and your name, it's got to be grounded in something that's beyond yourself, that is permanent. And the only thing that is the word of the Lord. The word of the Lord endures forever, and the way of righteousness there is life. And that I love that, because Jesus comes. What does he say in John when he's speaking to his disciples? When he calls it, this isn't the upper room. He says that I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Right.
And a lot of people want to just spiritualize that and say, oh, he did say Zoe in John.
Is it Zeo?
No, it's Zoe. But Zeo is you can there is a term for that too.
Oh.
But that is life in itself. Even your physical life is held by the hand of God, and everything about you as an individual, not just spiritually but physically as well, is cared about and is in God's mind. He has a plan for everything that goes on. He is in complete control. He is sovereign. And he is Zoe. He is life itself. And I like that term, because that's not just spiritual life. He is the reason to be living, period. And along that path is immortality. Because if you are walking the narrow road, which leads to life, immortality is only found in God.
I don't even know. This has been, 3 weeks since I think I wrote it down. And I have... You're about to listen. You're gonna be like, what? And I'm like, what? The path of righteousness is painted, but by the world as unexciting, boring, and unfulfilling, but that is not necessarily true. It is, however, true all wickedness will lead to death and destruction.
That's true.
But I don't know what the first part really meant.
Well, it means that in order to be truly creative, you got to be Christian.
Get that. What the?
Oh, I
And
just
next
had
week, we were talking about art and Christianity. Again, we could probably do that every week.
Again, so you were text bombing me.
I haven't even texted nobody.
You did.
When?
Right there. I was just trying to see what all this was.
Oh, that was like 10 years ago, dude.
This is coming in at 8:46, 8:46, 8:47.
You have seen me not touch my phone except to highlight a verse.
Well, I don't know. I think that's why you were highlighting a verse. Take my eyes off everything else. But yeah, I think this has been one of the more. I mean, all of the chapters of Proverbs so far have been something to really sit back and chew up and try to meditate upon. But this one chapter has got a lot of, I think, stuff that touches our lives in a practical way. Because, I mean, like, it spurred me on to wanting to get chickens and cook steak.
and farm potatoes.
And farm potatoes.
Doesn't have anything to do with the Ireland.
The Ireland?
Being Irish, right?
It has nothing to do with that, but I do love potatoes. Can you eat potatoes?
What is a racial slur for the Irish people? What do they call them?
I don't know. I ain't really looked that up. There is a term. I have it. I vaguely remember a term, but I can't remember what it is.
Is it insulting? Like, are you insulted by it?
I'm not insulted by much.
Oh, you're very prudent. I was trying to test you, but I guess I'll have to let it go.
Why? Do you know it?
I don't. I can't. The only thing I can think of. Oh, I can't. I probably shouldn't say it.
Oh, is it that bad?
No, it's just what it was a Mick.
Oh, no, I don't see how that's an insult though. But
it's what they say.
Mick, it's just means son or descendant of.
Mick?
Yeah.
Does it?
Mick, Mac, and O. Son, descendant of,
Mick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I may be incorrect about the Mick, but they just sound like
I probably just
prefixes to names that just
something
tells
really,
you who you're from.
Really insensitive to all the Irish culture.
Hey, don't worry.
James is Irish, so I can get away with it.
But next week
we will be discussing.
Might happen, depending on if someone can be dedicated to. I don't even know what day it is that we.
What day it is today?
Because no, not today. I know what today is. We should be able to do it next week unless you call out. Because
let me see.
I got plans.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do that. I honestly, next week is pretty busy.
Is it?
Yeah, but we should probably. Why don't you close us out, James? Say your goodbyes.
Say my goodbyes. But it's been fun. But we've been discussing Proverbs and
Proverbs
continuing
12.
on. Yeah, Proverbs 12, and we'll be continuing on in the next podcast with Proverbs chapter 13.
This one's going to be good. I can feel it.
Yes, in your bones.
Unlike a disgraceful wife that decays your bones.
It's not decaying, but it's a good feeling. But you've been listening to the Word Lover podcast. I'm your host, James Beasley.
And I'm Josh
Bunner. Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions or comments, please list them below. Or as we mentioned at the beginning, send us a shout out at the Word Lover podcast.
We'll put it in the link. We'll put it in the link. We'll put it in the link.
Put in the link for the email.
Please email any of your complaints to James Beasley.
Yes. Or questions, preferably questions.
All right.
And we'll discuss them as we have time. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the Word Lover podcast.
Thanks for watching. Peace.
I just wanna see you rather than I'm used to. Finally see it clear. Take me there, take me there, take me there.
Yeah. Tell me, have you ever seen her? Brother so weighted, you can tell by his demeanor that he's really jaded, trying to get out this arena. He longed for something greater, but they say he's just a dreamer. But he has a treasure that he holds like gold, cause he knows something that them boys don't know. Nothing seems funny when his money's so low, but when he thinks about that place, man, he really wants to go.